So welcome back to Flight Path. My name is Simon, and today we're in Paris, and we continue our talk about Napoleon. He's here March 1815, and he when he arrives here, let's talk about his the state of play, I suppose, would be the I'm just trying to get my notes here. I've got this book I showed you before, which I'm trying to read from. It's by Henri Husset, and he was an historian in the late 19th century. And he mentions that at the time in March 1815, that the disposition of the soldiers on 1815, they had this thing called a coalition. It was in Vienna, so the number of troops available to attack Napoleon amounted to about 80,000 troops at the time. There was about 30,000 Prussians, 14,000 Saxons, and 23,000 Anglo-Hanoverians, and 10,000 Dutch and Belgians. Of these troops, the Saxons were not reliable. There were many disaffections from the Dutch and the Belgians because they possibly many of them had fought with Napoleon before. And in 1814, the occupation of the Namur area, the Wallon area of Belgium, by the Prussians was particularly cruel, I suppose is the word. So there was believed that those elements then of the Allied army from those areas were probably not as reliable. In terms of the French army, I believe we're talking somewhere in the region of 200,000 troops were available to Napoleon. But you got to remember, these are spread across a large area. And they had let me just pause here because I can't find the page. They had they were distributed over many parts of France. As you said, there was lots in Lons-le-Saunier. The Army du Nord was relatively weak. The problem that Napoleon had was that they had a conscript system where it was by the year, and a lot of the conscripts had been sent home from the 1814 batch and the 1815 batch. So the calling up of these troops would be very unpopular. So he gets around this Napoleon by a number of ways. He recalls a lot of the National Guard. He brings the National Guard. He declares there's an emergency and that the National Guard need to be sent out to the fortresses. The fortresses then can give up troops. The troops then can then come back into the Army of the Nord. He starts recalling, I think it's the 1815 conscripts. There's there's a rule, I think you can have people from age 18 to 60, so he changes it to be basically the ones who are just fit enough for active duty. So he makes it about 18 years old to 40. And so he's doing a lot of taking from Peter to pay Paul kind of stuff going on. And trying to jiggle his troops to get enough troops together to actually get going. There's a lot of forced loans being forced on the gentry. It's almost like you have to. He forces the landowners to give a war bond to him. Basically, send him some cash, and then he will pay back later. Lots of these sort of, I suppose, tricks, basically, to try to raise money. In around about the 18th of March, so before he even arrives in Paris, Napoleon has been sending out letters to all the sovereigns of Europe. He's assuring them that he only wants peace. And the letter that's sent to the King, the Prince Regent in London, the Prime Minister refuses to allow the Prince Regent to open the letter, and he just has it returned to him. But Napoleon immediately sets out to try to show the world that he's changed. He's got pressure from Ney. He's got pressure from the world leaders to appear changed. So he starts to enable these sort of liberal measures. He appoints Joseph Fouché at... Oh, hello. Hiya. Hookah. That's what you can do then. So if you want to join me, you can join me live. We're flying around Paris on the European West server. So he's trying to show that he's changed. He appoints Lazare Carnot as the Minister of the Interior. And this is to appease the Jacobins. He abolishes the slave trade, sends protestations of his peaceful intentions to London and Vienna. And people argue is this true? Did he really have these peaceful intentions? Well, I think he did. You know, it was one of those things, I need time. He needed time to sort out the economy, sort out the army, get France back onto a strong setting. And if the Allies had allowed him that, then I believe he probably would have been peaceful for a time. But at the same time, it also acts as a measure to delay any invasion and gain him time. The Allies, though, immediately just say this is just a plot to buy time, and so then I think as soon as it was obvious that the Allies weren't going to bend their ways, then it did become a delaying tactic policy. His position in Paris at this time is obviously very precarious. He believes there's several plots against him. In fact, it's believed that Fouché, the guy he's literally just made Minister of Police, has been secretly corresponding with Metternich of Austria and Wellington, and where they were just basically sounding him out for possible alternatives to Napoleon and Louis XVIII. This area here is the business district. So I think we'll turn around here and head back. Interesting enough, there's the race. Oh, look, this is that. Oh, you've got to do it, haven't you? You've got to fly through this. There you go. Right, let's head back along this road. Presumably this heads to the Arc de Triomphe. March 22nd, Castlereagh has announces that he's sent 8,000 men and 20,000 muskets to reinforce the army, but Wellington immediately says that this isn't enough, he needs more. So Wellington is immediately knows that he's probably going to be the one to have to stop Napoleon again, and he wants a rapid remobilization to occur. Castlereagh, he's already anticipated that this would be what Wellington would want on the 24th of March. He provides the continental powers with about £5 million divided between them, because basically what happens is, well, it looks like a building. They basically, the British have always been the sort of navy force of Europe, and had never really ever had a large army, and have always were prepared to pay the continent for their army, which kind of makes sense. That's the Arc de Triomphe. So we're flying down the Champs-Élysées. He promises Wellington an army of 150,000 men, half of which would be made up of smaller European states. As I say, it's like the Brunswicks, the Belgiums, Netherlands, all these little minor states. And he will provide further subsidies for that. we know when we get to Waterloo, we're looking at maybe half of that amount that Wellington could control, as Napoleon goes on his aggressive attack. There's an argument going on between Britain and Prussia about who would be in command of the contingents from the north and German states. But it turns out that Wellington gets control of the main part of the army. The Allies have declared war on Napoleon himself, as we discussed before, and mobilized recruitment begins. And and at this stage as well, there's a rebellion that happens in the Vendée, which adds to Napoleon's problems. It means he has to lock up a lot of troops in the Vendée region to quell the violence there. So, this is the Pompidou Center, I believe, this colourful building in front of us. All the pipes on the outside. Let's just pause here, jump out. See if we can let this scenery load in. That is the Georges Pompidou Center. So Napoleon is in this very precarious position at the moment, because the issues that are affecting the Bourbon government is now affecting him, and so a lot of his decisions would be reversing some of the things that the Bourbon government did, and one of the most unpopular ones would be bringing back the conscription. There's pro-Bourbon rumblings, as I say, in the Vendée, and he needs to go have them quashed. So that soaks up some troops. So he's moving more now towards the classic thing that happens. We can see it right now with Trump, is that if you're suffering sometimes domestically, the best thing to do is to act internationally. And so it is occurring to him that the solution to his national problems will be on an international scale, and that's a swift victory again. Would confirm his political position, strengthen his position in Paris, and even if there's a moderate success, it would weaken the coalition against him. So the agreement that the Congress of Vienna have come up with is that they're going to immediately put this army of 150,000 into the field, and they're going to look to eventually invade France from all sides. Presumably, I think it would be Austrians maybe from the south, Russians from the east, and the British and the Prussians from the northwest. And Britain agrees to fund this. Rothschild's bank provides the government with £6 million sterling. And their ultimate plan is to have about 794 100,000. I know it sounds a bit specific, but this is what Hussein writes. 344,000 men in the Austrian army under Schwarzenberg, 250,000 men eventually under the British and Prussian army under Wellington and Blucher, and 200,000 troops in the Russian army under the Tsar Alexander I. And these would march on Paris, converging as they do. At the point that the hostilities eventually break out, the Russian army, who's under the command of Field Marshal Count Barclay de Tolly, numbers around about 167,000 men, and it's coming across Germany in 3 columns, and it's basically reached the middle of the Rhine. The Austrian army consists of around about 90,000 men at this time. There's a further 120,000 assembling on the plains of Lombardy, which is the Italian region. They had been there campaigning against Murat, and that's under the command of Field Marshal Prince Schwarzenberg. So they're concentrating on the right bank of the Rhine near Basel and Mannheim. 80,000 troops commanded by of the Bavarian army, commanded by Prince Rede. They're concentrated in the Upper Rhine area. So Napoleon could only at this point muster around about 160,000 troops, of which a significant proportion was needed to garrison the frontier forts. And so he does this sort of recruiting National Guards, moving National Guards around to relieve soldiers, to place older troops in these sort of static positions and move them mobile ones to his army. He couldn't he's in this pickle at the moment because he wants to get his army together as quickly as possible, but he doesn't want to send a signal to the Allies that he's not truthful about wanting to seek peace. So he's not able to mobilize his troop in an obvious way until he receives the response back from the Allies to his peace negotiations. And that didn't happen until about the 16th of April. And so on his immediate arrival, he in Paris, though, he could do a number of things. He establishes a number of workshops with the express purpose of manufacturing or repairing muskets. And he orders Davout, D-A-V-O-U-T, I think it's Davout. He's the Minister of War, and he calls for him to start purchasing horses for the cavalry. He needs to re-establish the clothing stores. They've been run down since 1813, and the Bourbon government had allowed them to just dwindle the stocks, so that the output of uniforms had reduced to around about 1,000 a day. sorry, he managed to increase the amount of uniforms to about 1,000 a day by around about May time. So at Vincennes, let me just pause here. Let's have a look at the map. Vincennes is to the south of Paris. Don't know how far we have to go. Presuming not too far. That anyway was a major it was an important arms manufacturing centre. And there's an area around there called the Polygon, which was where they would test their armaments. So he's able to increase the production. Around about 12 million cartridges are produced in between April and May of 1815. And by June, the manufacturers there are producing something in the region of 2,000 muskets a day. The reason why the British and the Prussians are in Belgium is because the from about 1814, the Allies had agreed to keep 75,000 men under arms in Belgium up to the point that the Congress of Vienna, an agreement, a settlement had been made. But Britain was short on their number. They had to withdraw a number of troops to move over to America for the American war there. So many of Wellington's veterans regiments from the peninsula weren't around at the time, and there was no possibility of them coming back from America in time. And they were based in Belgium because they were trying to bring stability to Belgium. The Belgium area had just passed into the Dutch control from the French, and with the British were signalling their alliance with the Dutch. There was a breakdown in the engagement of Princess Charlotte to the 22-year-old Prince of Orange, and so the British were trying to sort of patch up that piece of unpleasantness. Right, at this point, I'm going to take another break. When we come back, we'll continue one more section on this Napoleon's actions prior to the campaign to Belgium. So I'll see you in a moment.